All right, we're back.
Let's do this. Excited.
Today we got a great guest, Ricky Krautman. Ricky Krautman kicking, and quick background: went to Syracuse on scholarship as a kicker. Um, was I think the all-time like scorer in New Jersey history from a kicking standpoint. I broke all the records there when he was in high school.
Pretty sure for like most touchbacks. I think we'll have to ask the specifics.
Yeah,
So he's got some crazy kicking records that are still today.
absolutely. I think you have a little bit of feedback, but we'll
Echo.
see.
All right,
We'll,
that's all right. Okay.
just so you know. And then uh yeah, so at Syracuse, I can't remember what school he ended up finishing at, but kicked in I think indoor leagues, kicked a bunch of different places pro wise. And then started, training kickers, and we'll talk a lot more about it, but believe it or not, when he first started, I think he was maybe a year or two in, he trained my young kickers at Pal Park, Leonia. And he took our guy. I had him come down, and I don't remember how often. He probably remember. And he turned these young kids into like we would never miss an extra point, dude. Never. And he helped these young kids that we had. And but yeah, that was quite a long time ago. And obviously, fast forward, he also has one of the best TikTok channels on kicking. I mean, hands down, if you're on TikTok, and I'll bust his chops a little bit with it here, but yes, I mean, really just, I'm sure it's built his business, being able to showcase everything. He's had a lot of success. So many kickers go on and become successful and go on and kick at the college level. He in New Jersey is the kicking guru. Without further ado, let's bring on Ricky Krautman. Ricky, what's up, man?
Hey guys, how you doing? What's going on?
How we doing? Ricky Krautman, Ralph High School from 45. Let's go.
Oh yeah, glad to be here, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you coming on.
I was saying how I love your TikTok channel.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I appreciate everything you guys do. Coach Schuman, you have a hell of a TikTok channel, though.
We talked about this. I said, listen, yours rivals a lot. I said, but Ricky's listen, he brings the juice every time he works with whoever he works with, and that's what stuff right now is what these kids want to see. So if they see you kind of embracing their world, they're going to have a, more of a comfort level to come work with you.
100%. The connection's super important to have professional rapport connection, with student coach student, they have to feel comfortable working with you. And as soon as they start seeing progress and improvement, they just want to come back. It's all about consistency and staying positive, mentally tough. And I bring the mentally tough situations every time I go out there. I really sling it to my guys because they're going to get harder than me in college one day, even in high school. Coaches will get after them. So I want to prepare them set them up for success, not failure. So I try to implement all those, those mental toughness aspects that even at Syracuse, when I was throwing pencils at, spit at, when I was kicking, it doesn't matter. You got to learn how to, take deep breaths, ignore those distractions, and just trust the process. It's, there's worse things that can happen, so that's not the end of the world. But yeah, Syracuse football was great, playing D1 football. But, I would think I played at pretty much every level. I went from Syracuse to Richmond for a little bit with Coach Clausen, who's at Wake Forest now. Played under him for a few semesters, and then finished up at William Patterson. Coach Schuman, I know you were asking where I finished, so ended up with a phys ed, health and driver's ed teacher, K through 12 teacher cert. So that was back in 2009, and now I just coach full time. I've had my stints at certain school districts and stuff, did great, but once 2018, 2019 hit, I'm like, I just want to focus on building my business. That's when I started the TikTok channel, and that's how everything exploded. Pretty much from there. So.
I remember when you started the channel doing pretty much similar videos to what you do today, right? And I was like, wow. I was like, could that work? I didn't know, you know what I mean? Like you were doing something that was totally as far as, I've seen people do, stuff with football and videos and different things. And But for kicking, like that was totally different. And especially with the narration that you put to it, like you say their name, which I think the kid, if I was a kid, I'd love it, right? Like you're saying my name, you're putting a little pressure on me because obviously the camera's on me, and then I got to kick it, right? And it's just it was so unique, and I was like, I'm curious if this will work, right? Because you come in my feed, I followed you, and obviously I know you, and then over time, like you were so consistent with it, and more and more players got on board with it, and I mean, I'm sure it's developed your business side, but it's probably also enabled you to like look at, because you have those videos of each one of them, you know what I mean? So you could
Right.
actually see like things that are working well at each time. Like when you put pressure on a kid, like who's starting to handle it well, who still doesn't handle it that well, right?
Yeah, each kid is different, different personalities, different learning styles. But having that teaching background, having that kid through Tulsa definitely helps. People are like, "Wait, you do that full time, coach football full time?" I'm like, "Yeah, but teaching and coaching go hand in hand." So when I got my teaching cert, everything I learned from my professors at Syracuse, William Patterson, even Richmond, it stuck with me. And I ended up actually at one point, I actually talked to University of Richmond sports psychologist who was in charge of the psychology programs in sports at Richmond. And he taught, that guy literally like sat down with me for an hour and just went over like breathing mechanisms and visualization techniques. And more kids should go see like, sport, because honestly, like I can teach the kids everything I know one-on-one, but how are we going to translate that to the game situation? So kids do great with me one-on-one. There's sometimes it's hard for them, to deal with those pressure situations. That's when I come in though. And that's when I try to introduce, all those different game plans, running out from the sideline, sprint, yelling at the kids. I guess I'm known for that, for yelling, but that's how it should be done, man. Because college football, high school football, I mean, the coaches are really going to be on top of you, and I don't treat my kickers differently than any other position. It's all about, treating everyone equally and as football players, not just kickers. And I tell them to be working out in the gym, at least 3-4 times a week, with your team, on your own, stretching every day. So I have like a whole plan. I have a PowerPoint for them. I come up with like workout routines, and all that stuff helps. All that helps. And academics, as you know, is the most important. So I constantly repeat after to the parents, to the kids. If you don't have good grades as a kicker, like no coach is going to recruit you. I had a 4.9 GPA in high school, which is kind of not unheard of for a kicker, but definitely I worked my butt off, and I wasn't the best standardized test taker, but definitely try to have a high GPA. So this way, colleges, when they recruited me, were like, all right, we're gonna get that guy in. Like Syracuse said, okay, you're good. Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, they said I am not good unless I get a 1,200 out of a 1,600, and that was back in 2001. So things were a lot different at that time. Now Ivy League schools, to actually play there as a kicker, you it's not 1,200 now. I think it's like 1,350, 1,400. They're very selective who they bring in, and they should be, because when people say standardized testing is a good, it's a good like signal on how you're going to do in college, like specific schools like Richmond. That's one of those schools, very high academic program. You have to do well on your standardized tests. Like there's some schools that if you do well on your standardized tests in high school, it's going to be easier for you to adjust. Harvard, yeah, all the Ivy League schools, and I know those type of kids do really well in standardized testing. So Syracuse is a great fit for me, but unfortunately there was a coaching change. Coach Robinson, rest in peace. He came in and changed the whole program, and I ended up bouncing. After 2005, I wasn't, I guess, a good fit there anymore. But it is what it is, man. I tell the kids I made a huge mistake. And they always ask, like, do you regret leaving Syracuse? And yes, I do, because that's a full ride. That's a full scholarship for academics, not just football. It's about academics. No one can take education, academics away from you. And I try to really repeat that day and I tell my kids that story, and even the parents, whatever they think or not, it's a meaningful story, and it definitely changes kids' lives, because whatever school it is, man, if any kid's lucky to get a full scholarship anywhere, I mean, there are people fighting for this country, man. It can't be that bad. Like I was starting in 2005, right? I just wanted to go to the league. So I had a different attitude when I was 20 years old. I'm like, I'm going to go to this school. Grass is green on the other side. It ain't, but I am happy where my life is right now. And without those experiences, I wouldn't be who I am today. So that's why I'm very like energized and very like into what I'm doing, because I've been through like the ups and downs. I'm sure you guys have too, as football coaches. You just got to like just shake it off and move on. So
Well, the ups and downs are part of the game. There's no doubt about it. And I think that this is what you were meant to do, and you're able to impact a lot of kids. I mean, like hundreds and hundreds of kids, which is really, I think, unique from a kicking standpoint, right? Because there's only one kicker on the field, right? So many kids coming in to see you and work with you is a unique thing, and you being able to relate that experience to them. You could say, hey, I learn from what I did, learn from what I did well, obviously, as well.
Right.
I mean, you were
Yeah,
the
of course.
all-time leading scorer in New Jersey history,
Yeah.
it's so, I mean, obviously there's tons of things that you've done, but be able to learn from those experiences, you could help guide them. And so I think that that's really, really cool. And I was telling Derek, I began to tell the story. So now it clears up a little bit more. So 2009 was when you came out. So you worked with my kick. Like I had to be one of the first guys to have you work with guys.
Yeah.
Back with Powell Park, right? You remember that?
Coach Brooks Alexander, and you were the first two guys to reach out and say, hey, can you coach at Pascack Hills? And now I'm still at Pascack Hills, which is awesome. Now with Coach Alexander, but he's at Park Ridge. We're scrimmaging them on Thursday. So It should be an interesting scrimmage. But yeah, you and then I had my stints with Coach Teal at Bosco and
right. Yeah, and that's where I met you. Was you were working with our, I mean, we literally we did not have kickers, and then Leo, rest in peace as well. God bless that kid. Turned out to be one hell of a guy who you worked with consistently to like watch him go from where I saw him start and then to end up going to the University of Rhode Island to be the kicker and punter, right? Like, so he double dipped. And this was a kid who, when he came in, I could just remember Coach Toll being like, are you kidding me? This is the guy we got. And, Ricky, like, stayed the course with Leo, and a hell of a story, like, what a kid.
Great family,
but to see you, amazing. But to see you progress and kind of, push these guys along to, and like you said, you incorporate the other things that, a lot of guys don't think are even part of it, right? Everybody thinks, you just line up and kick a ball and, there's certain mechanics to it, but the mental aspect is huge. And you touch on that where a lot of other guys don't.
Yeah, no, this is my passion, and I've been through the ups and downs. So mostly ups, though, like you said, like I'm just modest, they can Google me. You can look up all my accolades, 249 career kicking points.
Yeah, man.
I believe Angelo Guglielmano had beaten that. I know Catholic schools, they play a few more games, but I respect Angelo.
Stop it. Don't start that.
He's a great, no, Angelo's a great guy. He's at Stony Brook right now. And I know I've been following his career a little bit too. So we both got trained by Pat, the old school Pat St. Pierre.
The greatest of the greats.
A lot of guys, man.
Bro.
Yeah. We're always saying rest in peace as we get older, but it is what it is.
Right,
I guess.
Right. I know it's a lot of it. But listen, a lot of guys learn from Coach St. Pierre, and I think you've taken certain aspects from him in terms of how do you approach the kids in certain ways, and he was an old school kind of, this is how you do it, and you kind of just went with it. But I mean, also you were very fortunate. You went to Ramapo High School, so you've been around high level talent and just good programs, and I think you've taken that with you.
Oh yeah, 100%. It started with Coach Mike Niello at Ramapo, and I remember him coming down on his golf cart when I was in 8th grade, and I was literally just kicking on the field, like no training. I think Justin Reamer trained me once from Wayne Valley. Remember Justin Reamer, big time 90s in the 90s kicker. He went to go to California for the Replacements movie. He was going to be a stunt double in the Replacements. So he trained me for a little bit. He moved out to Cali for a little bit, and then I had met Pat, and Coach Mike Niello wasn't a big fan of that, to be honest. Wasn't a big fan of me working with Pat. He didn't like any kickers going in there working with these coaches and stuff, because Coach Miele is old school, man, old school Italian coach. We know he means well. He was my coach at William Patterson for a few years as well, which was crazy how it ended up.
Yeah, so you got the full circle. Okay. Yeah, that's how.
ISO.
I'm going in there.
Oh,
here
that
he comes
sense.
again.
Yeah.
I remember I dropped the football. I remember
he was our athletic director for a little while.
Oh yeah, he was in Wayne. He was in Wayne too a little bit too. Yeah.
But he had us. He was an interim guy when we were at RBR our second year. So he took an interim job down here. So we have experience with him. We'll leave it at that.
No, real quick though, I dropped the first drop I ever had as a punter. I dropped the snap and against Hobart. This was back in like 2007 at Wayne Patterson. It was my first. I never dropped a snap ever in my life, right? I just, not that I got nervous. I just, I was looking out to kind of see the formation. It was fourth and 6, I remember, and I literally dropped the slippery new GST Wilson ball, and I literally like kind of almost like a surreal situation, almost like when I missed my extra point against Boston College, my first game. I almost like brought back these bad memories, and all of a sudden, like, I really did want to pull like a Reggie Bush and run around the field and score a touchdown, but I didn't. I picked up the ball. I ran like 2 yards, and then I saw this guy from Hobart. It's D3 football, but there's some big dudes, This guy from Hobart was coming at me like 6'5". I reversed lateral the ball to my teammate. This was when Coach Miele was coaching at William Patterson, and my guy, Danny Nunez.
Sure, he loved that.
I come off the sideline. He goes, "Are you effing kidding me?" Takes his hand, like puts it on my neck. Takes my face mask. The guy, I love Coach Mike Miele though. He worked he worked me into something else, man.
I believe my first year at Montclair State, which would have been the 2005 season, I believe was his either last season or one of those years where he was like on his way out. And, Montclair Willie P is always whatever. And so I can remember him there. And then, when we were at RBR, he was there for a little while, and that's kind of where I'll leave it, I guess.
Coach Gibbs came in again. I saw, rest in peace again. I love it.
Right. We're on 4. We're missing
Gibbs,
4
man,
guys.
But Coach Gibbs came in. He changed my life around too. I mean, talking about coaches making phone calls for kids, to colleges. I mean, Coach Gibbs doesn't have to pick up the phone and call Syracuse and these schools. He knew how good of a kicker I was. But when he got Coach Steve Bush to come in as the quarterback coach from Syracuse to come all the way to Rampo and watch me kick in person, that was like, the guys on my team were like, obviously a little envious. They're like, wait, how are you getting all these schools coming to watch you? I'm like, well, look what I'm doing for kickoffs. They're going through the uprights. Of course, the schools are going to go after me. So I was pretty modest, but also I had that cockiness. You have to. I mean, if you're an All-American kicker, you're going to be cocky. Mason Crosby and I are the same year, believe it or not. Mason Crosby looks a lot older than me, but he's like my age. And we went on recruiting visits together. And I remember still, man, I brought Pat St. Pierre with me on 2 recruiting visits. And he was helping other kids at the camp. That's how good of a coach, good guy Pat was. He was actually helping kids at Michigan and Georgia. I'm like, what? I get this guy to come with me to camps. He's helping out other guys, but
he's helping out everybody else. You're like, hey, Coach, I brought you with here for me. That's just the type of person he was.
And, is this Bush too from Mid as well? That's Bush who's at Mid North now, right?
I think he is. Yeah, it is Steve Bush. Yeah, Coach Bush.
Dude, he's one. Listen, he's awesome down here. Great guy. We've had a good relationship with him because we came down here to the Shore Conference. Not many people chuck it around like we wanted to. He was one of the few that kind of did that. So we took a liking to him right away.
Oh yeah. Coach Bush was awesome, man. What he did, as a leadership role as a coach as well. Like he had a great professional rapport with the college athletes, at Syracuse, and Coach DeLeon, again, rest in peace.
Oh yeah, DeLeon.
Coach DeLeon, the best. George DeLeon, man. Everyone knows that guy,
the best, bro. The best.
Great family. He always invited me over for like dinner with the linemen. I mean, he didn't have to do that,
Right. He wanted to keep you included as a specialist because a lot of our viewers, I don't think they really understand, Rick, and you can kind of go into it just a little bit. Like a kicker's lifestyle is way different than a pure football player's lifestyle, right? Like, I mean, I know you're still expected to be a part of the team, but your routine as a college specialist is very different. Could you talk on that a little bit?
Yeah. So, we still have to go to meetings, especially the special teams meetings as kickers. So we always have to work on like being on time. Responsibility is very important. We're treated equally like everyone else. So if we're late to a meeting, even by like a second, I'm talking even Roundpo High School, like you're in trouble. You're going to be running sprints, this and that. So when it comes down to like keeping everyone equal on the football team and doing the exercise in the weight room and everything like that, we're pretty much on the same page. The only difference is when we're at practice, we have some ample time to like, do some core stretch it, core and strength exercise, a lot of body weight exercise.
Yeah, right.
Keeping
Come on, you're over there kicking balls into garbage cans. You're freaking like, hey, how can I do that? I know a specialist lifestyle, bro.
But now, since I've been coaching for over 17 years, I have a regiment that I tell my kickers and punters, because a lot of coaches, actually, I have to email one of the Immaculata coaches, one of my workout plans, because he asked for it. So that's actually, I just reminded myself on that. But yeah, a lot of kids are asking me now, like, and coaches, like, what are the reps are we taking like every day? Like, I'm not going to have my kicker kick 100 balls a day. So I have like a routine, you know, with my guys, staying consistent. Every kid's a little bit different, but most of the guys I tell, you're going to be kicking and punting every day. I practice long snapping. That's just the way it is. With the reps with the football team, you know, with the live reps, live ops, snap, hold, kick, snap, punt, all that stuff. But on your own, you're going to have to work on your dry runs, your air kicks, all the line drills that I talked about with all my guys. I mean, they have to stay consistent with the routine. And if they get that consistent routine down, it's only going to help them on the field, obviously, in those game situations. So we are very different than other positions in regards to, like, you know, obviously we're kicking, punting on the sidelines, where linemen and quarterbacks are not kicking, right? They're working on the X's and O's, and the running backs are involved, the linebacker, everyone's involved. You know, kickers and punters, we're involved to an extent, but when the rest of the team is doing their, you know, their offensive defensive plans, you know, I'm working with my guys on the sideline like a pass that kills. I'm making sure the guys are staying active, because you'll lose respect from your teammates if you're not doing anything. If you're a kicker and just chilling on the sideline,
absolutely,
like, they're not going to respect you. So I started doing push-ups at Syracuse right away to earn that respect. Some of the guys from like Jacksonville, Florida, are like, "Who the hell is this kicker, man?" Because I honestly failed my 110s when I first got to Syracuse, and Coach DeLeon, you know what he said to me? He goes, "You mean we recruited you to come here and you fail your 110s?" He's like, "Shit, I wish we could take that scholarship back." Once he said that, I literally, it lit a fire up my ass. I mean, I just wasn't prepared. The transition from high school to college, like, ate me alive, man. I just wasn't ready, and I wasn't mentally ready to go. I remember 8th game of the season, Coach Pasqualoni, longtime Syracuse coach, put his arm around me right before the Boston College homecoming game. 50,000 people. He goes, "Hey, Rick, are you ready to kick today?" I said, "I'm supposed to be redshirted, coach. It's 8th game of the season. You know, it's not like what it is now with 4 games, the redshirt. I mean, they play you one down, you're done." So I said to Coach, "What am I going to say? No?" So I'm like, "Why is this, though?" He goes, "Colin Barber got hurt before the game started, the starting kicker." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" And he goes, "No, I'm not kidding." He goes, "We need you today." I'm like, "How about the other kickers on scholarship?" And he goes, "No, they're not available. One's torn ACL." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me." So what am I supposed to say? No. So I went in for pregame, and I was kicking like the living shit out of the ball, you know, excuse my language, knocking them through the uprights, everything. So Coach Pasqualoni and DeLeon go, "All right, we got you here for a reason. You're going to be starting today against Boston College." Guess who was playing against me in that game at Boston College? Greg Toll, Coach Toll's son. And my sister was married to him for a while. So it was like, at the time they were a girlfriend and boyfriend, you know. He didn't even know I was kicking. Like, we were literally like staring at each other probably from the sidelines. And I get the call to start. And Syracuse, we run down and score a touchdown pretty quickly against BC. The whole place goes nuts. All I hear is like, "Krautman, you're in." And again, I was out the night before hanging out with my boys. I'm like, who the hell thought I was going to play against BC? I was like thinking, oh my God, this is crazy. You know, surreal situation. 6-0. The place is loud house. I go in there and I clank the red upright on my extra point. You can't make it up, coach. You can't make it up. And I go into the sidelines, literally saw a ghost. You know, I look like I'm fair skinned to begin with. I look like literally just a ghost. And the coach pulls me to the side, Coach Pasqualoni goes, "Rick, you're gonna get he's like, you're gonna get another opportunity to kick this." And I said, "Okay, well, you know." We ended up beating Boston College by a lot of points, but I got one more opportunity that game. It was a 36 from the right hash, and I hit it wide right. So after that 0-2 debut, they benched me, and they just left Brendan Carney in there to, you know, the Malvern Prep kid, just to punt. He was a 6'4" skinny guy, you know, and he would do the kickoffs, he would do the field goals and the punting. So they didn't want to like ruin my freshman year. So I was redshirted my sophomore year, and then played all junior year.
Hell of a debut.
Oh, wow. So,
anyways, yeah, it's
great. That's a great story. It's a great story. I mean, it's an unfortunate story, but it's a great story. It's a great learning.
Absolutely.
What I was going to say, with respect to recruiting, and I'm curious of this because you have so many kids you work with. What do you tell your kids, like, with respect from a recruiting standpoint? Do you help them with that? Like, what is your role in all that kind of part for them?
Well, let me tell you, Coach. I'm old school when it comes to even though I do post a lot on social media. Sometimes I wish, honestly, I can just like the old school back in the day, word of mouth. You know, that's why a lot of coaches know who I am now. Obviously, Twitter and TikTok and all that stuff. But the Northeast coaches, we stick together. Especially New Jersey. So I have a lot of different Coach Hoffman, Coach Nuns. I know all the camping. So I have a lot of ties with college football, especially in New Jersey and the Northeast. Coach Chiano. So that helps. Coach EJ Barthel is a good friend of mine. He's in Nebraska. Don't know too much about Coach Rule, but obviously now I do since my guy Nico got a preferred walk-on spot there.
Yep,
I think it's
yep.
Yeah. I think it's like it depends. Like I'm very picky and selective. Like even though I work with a lot of guys, if they're looking at D1 schools, I'm not just going to refer a kid to a D1 school, but Twitter is the best resource right now for colleges to like go on Twitter and see prospective guys. The only problem is they're getting thousands and thousands of messages and stuff. And that's why they take off their I understand why Notre Dame and these schools, like you go on the staff directory and they have Twitters, but you can't even message them unless they follow you, a lot of those coaches. So I'm just trying to network for these guys, man. Once COVID hit in 2019, the C word, I was like, I'm going to do something different. Like Coach Schuman brought up, like I changed my whole thing. Cause I was old school when I first started coaching, like with Leo. I mean, I referred guys, I talked to colleges for the kid, but nowadays, like there's other coaches and other kids that are trying to get their guys to, if I don't help out my guys, they're going to go to other coaches. That's how it is nowadays in 2023. You got to, but for me, it's like, I just focus on what I got to do with my guys. I'm not worried about what this coach is doing because they're all helping out. I would never, badmouth any other coach because they're all helping kids out. They all have a great professional relationship with the students. I know for me, a lot of those coaches that I hit up, maybe even new ones. I know I tweeted, I think the Duke special teams coach. I don't even know honestly, I never heard of the guy, but I tweeted him because one of my guys was interested but again, I'm not going to just tweet him and waste my time if the kid doesn't have D1 potential. That's the thing.
How do you determine it? It's kicking is so tough, right? From like, so for example, and here's my example.
I see where you're going with it. Great question, because like we talk about it all the time. Like, how do we determine, right? Like, is there a certain, hey, is he hitting from this yardage? Like, there's a lot of questions, especially when it comes to high school guys.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of video, like, right? So there's a lot of video of kids making long kicks, but how do we know if that kid's like, so what are some of the things that like you look for that makes this a kid or a recruitable kicker, and I know you do punters and everything, but like long snappers, yeah. But what makes them recruitable?
Well, the consistency is the big term right there, right? I mean, consistency on kickoffs, the distance to hang time, the get off times, the snap, punt, all that stuff, extra point, field goal. Because again, you could train a kid 1-on-1, but how are they going to perform in the games? And like going back to before, like I set them up for success, not failure, but it depends really on the kid and their academic, their goals and objectives as well. Cause I have a kid right now at Middlebury from Northern Highlands High School, played under Coach Russo for a while. And his name's Andrew Haas, great kid, man. He had D1 potential too, but he's that type of kid that academics, he's a great fit for Middlebury. And there's certain kids that just want to go Ivy League or D2 or D3 because they already know kind of that's where their parents went, like Bucknell. Bucknell's a great school, Is it a strong powerhouse D1 football school? No, but it's a great academic school. And I think parents and their kids who may have went through that route, a lot of parents may have graduated Bucknell. It's easy for the kid to kind of maybe, get into that school now because their parents went there. For me, though, I think it's not really, and I hate to say that because I don't really like the stereotype kickers. He's a D1 kid. I mean, listen, there's a lot of D3 kickers that could play on the D1 level, 100%. And it could be anywhere from like maybe students that for D3 schools want to stay more local to their towns, to the state. They don't want to travel. They don't want to travel across country or, they just don't see themselves sitting on the bench for 4 years. D1 football, as you know, is a very competitive. I didn't see really my first starting year till like 2.5 years when I first got into Syracuse. I had to earn that spot, and a guy like, my brother Ross, who also played football at Syracuse, he came in there as a freshman and beat out a senior and a sophomore. And it doesn't matter who's in front of you. That's the thing. Like, and you don't have to be a 5-star. I'm not a big fan. I do my TikTok ratings on kickers. Like he's a 5-star, whatever. But honestly, I don't, if a kid's kicking off a stick at a camp with 100 kids and kicking a 55, 60-yard field goal, that's great. It shows their leg strength. But how are they in games though? I want to see how they're in games, like with pressure on a 33-yard field goal. I'm not worried about 55s. I'm worried about extra points and kicks, field goals inside 40 yards. So I think if the kid gets like that, consistency inside 45, 50 yards, and it's knocking touchbacks in, the touchbacks is really what's going to signal those D1 coaches. Because a lot of kids can kick field goals, Coach.
Yes.
You know that.
But if you can put that thing through the back of the end zone and eliminate an entire play on it, I mean, listen, you had the record for most touchbacks in a season, I believe, it was some kind of crazy number. But I mean, listen, if that's something like I know, and especially as a special teams guy, if you can now put that thing consistently through the back of the end zone and eliminate a play, like that's on a whole different level. That's what these guys are looking for.
So that was the big difference. I was going to say, like, there's a lot of D3 kickers. I'm not saying every single one, but most of them, all right, they might not be getting 70-yard kickoffs, okay, like in high school. So D1, to be a D1 kicker, like you're going to have to consistently kick 65 to 70-yard kickoffs in high school average, at least junior and senior year. Sophomore year, I mean, I was kicking them to the 5, but then I worked with Joe DeFranco, world-renowned strength coach, Brian Cushing, all those guys. And then Coach Schuman. I mean, listen, we grew up basically in the same area. You grew up in Jersey, right, Coach Schuman?
Yeah, I grew up in Bergen County.
Yeah, so the whole Park Ridge, Cushing stuff. I mean, Coach Joe DeFranco used to work in Waldwick at the Odyssey. That's in Parisi's. Obviously, I worked with him all throughout my career, and that's how I got like stronger. Though that a lot of kickers think it is technique, but you got to get your ass in the weight room to really hit touchbacks. That's super important. But yeah, I think like all divisions, like they all provide different things for kids and parents. I don't think like, oh, he has D1 potential. I mean, there's D3 guys that have D1 potential, but maybe they're just not kicking off like as far, or maybe academically they're not ready for that big level here. Because I work with a few kids from like Mississippi, and some of those, like the virtual sessions that I do, and some of those schools down there, not even the Ole Miss, Mississippi State, like Eastern Mississippi State, some of like the JUCO schools, they're really good. And that's how you can get like into some of those D1 schools, by starting at that level, because now you're playing college level football. The guys that you're playing against are the speed and everything is different. So I think like Nassau Community, even Sussex County Community College, I think a lot of kids like kind of like don't even look. They kind of look past that. They're like, oh, I want to go to Syracuse. I want to go to this school. But that might be the easiest way to maybe get to a Syracuse, because those type of schools, I always say you got to know somebody, but yes, to get yourself kind of in the door and like try out and walk on. I mean, Nebraska, obviously, I know, Coach Foley, and I know, and Coach Barthel, and that obviously helps a little bit with Nico going out there and at least competing, but he was number 1 at their camp. So, and plus he hit that 46 in the state championship game. That really solidified any chance. Solidified it. It was a huge kick, but the game film is super important.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to be there to see it in person. So someone like Nico, who really is a fantastic kicker, gets a walk-on spot in Nebraska. What are there? And it's funny because I'm the game, but like, how much money is being thrown at kickers from a scholarship standpoint? Now, I remember, when we played Summit in the state championship in 2012. Their quarterback and kicker was Mike Badgley, who's now, the Detroit Lions kicker, right? And I mean, his leg was out of this world. And Mike Badgley, I always wondered, was he actually there on a full ride? He may have been on a full ride. He was that good, Mike. So, but are there a lot of full rides, or do a lot of Division I schools look to bring them on as a preferred walk-on? How does that work more for kickers?
Yeah, so there's a regular walk-on spot where literally you get into the school academically, and you head down to the football office, and you maybe show them your highlights in high school, and I guess you're considered a walk-on, meaning you're at the school already and they want you as a walk-on. A preferred walk-on, basically you're getting recruited like Nico is, and Coach Foley and Coach Barthel, I'll let you know this. They said if they had the money, and Nebraska has money obviously, but they said if he had the scholarship kicker punter money, they would give it, but they had given Sam Koch's son the punting scholarship for his year. So that was one scholarship. And Nico punts, but Koch is like a punter, Right. And then they have this kid from Nebraska. Listen to this. 5 field goals in one game to win the state championship for his high school team in Nebraska. He gets a full scholarship from the old staff in Nebraska, not from Coach Rule. 5 field goals in one game to win a state championship in Nebraska. That's great. Now, Nico, who has another year at Old Pan, right? And then, obviously going to be enrolling into Nebraska. He's got a lot of competition, obviously, not just this kid, 2023 kid. Nebraska football, there's like 4 or 5 probably other kickers there that he's going to have to contend with, that there could be some walk-ons that are as good as preferred walk-ons. Like, that's the thing, scholarship or no scholarship, you have to be real good to get on that D1 team. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? You got to be ready. Nico has all the potential in the world. We still have a lot of work to do in regards to some of his technique and stuff, but he has the leg speed, he has the leg strength, and that's what they look at, projection. And Nico's one of those guys they project to maybe earn a full scholarship one day. But even Coach Foley said, Rick, we will give him a full ride right now, but we already give this Nebraska kid. And I was talking to my dad, who's a big role model for me, and I was kind of explaining the situation. Don't laugh too hard, guys. He goes, wait, let me get this straight. He goes, a kid from Nebraska is going to beat out a kid from New Jersey for the starting spot. And I said, why do you say that? Because, I mean, listen, there's guys throughout the country that are very talented. Right. He goes, no, it's not about that. It's about the mental toughness of a kid from New Jersey, the way they grow up and the way they handle these adverse situations. And that's exactly when you look at my brother and I, like, we didn't back down to any competition. That's when New Jersey teaches you how to be mentally tough. You know, I know Nico is going to come in there and focus on what he's got to do, not worried about this kid, because once you focus on your competition, it's over, man. You know, you got to focus on what you got to do to help the team win games. And again, you only have one body, one mind, so you got to take advantage of every situation. But going back to the scholarship thing, Coach, not many kickers do get full. I mean, I'm telling you right now, I mean, the best of the best do, and they don't have to be 5-star Coles guys or 5-star Sailor guys, you know. It's all about academics, what you do in games, and what you do at their kicking camps, right? I have a guy, Nick Reed from Harrison, New York. He's at Buffalo now. You know, I worked with Nick for a few years. You know, I haven't seen the kid in a little bit, but he's a great kid, and he deserves to be at Buffalo. The only problem is Coach White, who recruited him, he's at Memphis now. So it's like, that's the thing. Coaches leave. Like, you can get attached to a coach, and then they leave. It's like, but he loves the school, Buffalo. He's a New York guy, Nick Reed, and I know he's going in there as a preferred walk-on too. I mean, Nick was pounding kickoffs for Harrison. That's the thing, like getting a full ride. I mean, a lot of schools like University of Missouri, they're not going to give you a full scholarship until you earn that spot on the team and start solidifying yourself, right? And that's solidifying yourself. And that's 100% cool, man. I'm cool with that, because why would you full scholarship a kid out of high school if literally he gets there and he shits the bed, basically? You know, kind of like I was an All-American, but I didn't do well at all freshman year at Syracuse. I was thinking to myself, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, you know, ask me back for next year, because I just didn't have a good freshman year at all. Physically wise, focus wise, I just wasn't there. I think I was like a homesick thing too, you know, even though Syracuse is only 3.5 hours, I just, like, you know, I missed family. It just was a different thing. You know, I grew up in Wyckoff. It's a different community, Syracuse, you know, so I was like trying to get used to things and the environment. And, but yeah, man, I mean, Syracuse is a great school. You know, if I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have transferred, dude. It's Syracuse. You're getting a free education there, you know? But going back, Coach, yeah, just to solidify, like, to repeat the whole scholarship thing. I mean, my brother got a full scholarship. I mean, I have Pat Ryan at Georgetown. Georgetown doesn't give like full rides like that, I don't believe. I think he might have gotten a lot of money going there. But it's just very tough to even the school like University of Northern Colorado. They give full scholarships, but to go to a school like that too, you got to have that 65, 70-yard kickoff status. I mean, you're not going to go to even like the smaller D1 schools, like the smaller, you know, I guess what is that? Texas State, like some of those schools, right? You still got to be one of the best kickers in the country to play at these schools, man. William Patterson, all right, now we're talking D3, where I graduated. I know you can't compare Willie P to Nebraska football, but film is film and kicking is kicking, right? I had a kid, Nick DeAngelis, who played at Ramsey High School for 1 year, goes to Willie P for 2 years. Coach Franklin asked him to walk on because he came in there and he made the team as a walk on. That was like a walk on, not really preferred per se, even though he was getting recruited, and he was on the team. I mean, Penn State, that's crazy, you know. And he doesn't have to play on like lately in the games to make himself the happiest. He's on the team already. It's Happy Valley, right? I mean, he's already in a great mood. He's doing he's doing great with you know, all the coaches. It is what it is. But, anyway, so yeah, I could talk forever, Coach. You know, man.
I got a question for you. So the explosion of like obviously what you do on the camp tour, like Coles and Sailor, and then, you know, I'm good friends. Yeah, I'm good friends with, I don't know if you know Mike McCabe, but
yeah, I know Mike. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Mike McCabe, who like really works with, he's in Florida, I think, primarily.
Alabama, maybe, or Florida.
Well, he's from Alabama, right. He's Alabama. Alabama, that's right. That's right. He used to coach at Prattville. So, so Mike McCabe, you know, and so the explosion of all this stuff, right? There's a lot more kickers, like really pursuing the position, right? I know it's a good thing from a business standpoint, But have you found that kickers, like the expectations, like is there like, do parents and kickers expectations align with what is the opportunity? Like, how do you coach them on that? Because to me, like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like quarterback parents, kicker parents, uh, usually are the two groups of parents that have unrealistic expectations of what can actually happen from a college standpoint at that position. And the main reason why is there's only so many spots, right? Like one kicker comes out on the field, one punter comes out on the field, one quarterback comes out on the field. It's not like you got 5 wide receivers out at one time.
Right.
You know, so it's that kind of a thing. How do you temper that? How do you discuss that? What do you see when people come to you, right?
Well, and that's the thing, like right now in 2023, the biggest recruit I have right now of mine is Nico Adamanelli going to Nebraska. And there are other kickers that I train that are his year, juniors right now, that are feeling some type of way. They're like, wait a second, how is this guy who I'm as good at in practice, whatever? There's always going to be those guys because they're competitive and they want the same opportunity. So at the end of the day, it goes down a game film, right? Nico Adamanelli, 46-yard field goal. I think Coach Bartel was at that. I mean, the whole Rutgers staff was at that game. You know, Coach Schuman was on the sidelines. That was the biggest kick he could make. So I tell parents that game film, just to like calm them down, the consistency, the charting that we do every practice. You know, we chart the kids, you know, making sure they're at pass at kills, you know, for instance. And again, the college process is not easy at all. I just tell the kids to look at, and the parents are really good with this with me too, that because when I mention the academics, which is the most important thing besides family, they really look at that. They're like, all right, let's try to really work on my kid going to a specific college for a specific major, and then maybe football will help my kid get into school. That is true. Listen, I got 5 full scholarships out of high school, you know, for having a 4.9 GPA obviously helps a lot. But, you know, my kickoffs, my field goals, everything was pretty darn good. And I'd even punt in high school. Can you imagine getting 5 full scholarships in high school nowadays and not punting? You have to be like God, basically, of kicking. So that's one thing nowadays, too. Like, the more versatile the kid is, he punts, he kicks field goals, he does kickoffs. I think a lot of parents think that their kid is just going to go out there and kick an extra point and get recruited. No, nowadays you have to do all 3. And you have to make sure that you're taking, you know, the right amount of credits for your high school. You're involved with the community service. That's the thing. Like, some of these parents are a little bit diluted because they feel like football is the only way their kids are going to get into school, but it's not that. They look at everything: your transcripts, your resume, your community. Even Syracuse, they wanted me to write essays and stuff for them, like the reason why I want to go there. You know, why are we? You know, you always ask the whys, right? And you want to be able to be a good fit for that school, you know? So I try to temper like everything, just talking to the parents about let's find a good fit for your kid, whether it's, God forbid, your kid gets hurt. Let's say he goes to Rutgers, right? He wants to play football, but he gets hurt one year, right? And that's it. Does he or she want to stay at that school? Okay. Or are they going to be miserable at that school? That's the thing. Like, I transferred to a few schools, man. I wish I could have just stayed at one school because I'm all about stability, right? Even though I'm like literally all over the place in general, right? I'm all about stability, though. That's my personality. You know, I want to make sure it's organized, structured. And that's how I present to the parents how everything is run. So like a guy like Nico going to Nebraska, I know it's early in the game. There's some kids saying, why did he commit so early? I mean, why wouldn't he? He's been out there a few times already. He loves the facility. They're building it up. And that's the thing. Kids and parents, they have to start doing the research and they have to start visiting these campuses. You know, a lot of these kids' dream schools, UCLA, USC, Miami, Florida State. Okay, I get it. But are you looking at the majors? Because again, God forbid, football doesn't work out. Can you see yourself at that school? So I think I open up a lot of parents' minds and the kids' mind. Like he does have a point, you know, because I don't want kids transferring like I did, right? Tate Martell, another guy, QB1 guy, you know, that dude transferred how many times? Tate Martell, what, 3 or 4? I mean, that's
now he's nowhere to be found. So,
and the high school kids too, Coach. Nowadays they're transferring from this school to this school. You know, I can't keep track. Even some of my kickers are transferring, you know, from the public schools to pro. I get it. You know, a lot of kids think that going to
we have a mutual, one of your mutual students in mind, and we've actually referenced him on here. You know, you got a guy going from a big time public school, right, where, you know, probably some of the best facilities, right, like, and you could be a part of that, and then no, I'm going to go to a place where hey, it's a private school and maybe I'll get more looks here.
Well, as you know, kickers, punters, long snappers, all specialists, social media, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, whether coaches want to admit it, every coach is on Twitter. Every football coach is on Twitter. They're looking at kids' films. And that's the biggest thing I tell parents now. Your kid, I don't care if they're a freshman. I have a rising freshman going to play for Coach Bear and Coach Preston Lawyer at Ramsey. He was going to go to the Pole.
Ramsey.
Yeah, now he's going to Ramsey because Coach Bear knows how to talk to parents and he knows how to talk to kids because, again, he's a disciple of Coach Toll at Bosco. And he has that whole mentality.
He was there for years with Anthony Campanelli. He was his right-hand man and then spent a bunch of years at Hasbrook Heights and has taken this Ramsey program and used all of those tools, man, to
He's
turn
fired up, man. That guy, I thought I was energetic.
No, he's great, man. Coach Bear is a good guy.
So he's in a good spot. Again, the same thing with Kyle, like the recruiting, when I'm talking to parents and their kids, meet the coaches, see if your kid has a good professional connection with the coaches. You can want to go to Notre Dame, right? But if you don't have a good connection with the coaches or you don't see eye to eye with objectives and goals, Coach Barthel and Coach Foley, Coach Rule, they're all on the same page with what Nico is projected to do, right? Is he projected to start right away? No one knows, man. It's all about what can you do what have you done for me lately? A lot of the kids I work with are always like, oh, but coach, the other day I was kicking better. I don't care. I don't care if you're kicking the other day better. It's what have you done for me now? And life goes on. You miss a kick, you move on. That's just part of life. But it's easier said than done. You know what I'm saying? You really don't understand that until it happens to you. Like the Syracuse game when I missed that extra point, I thought the world was over. Basically, I was on ESPN when I missed that extra point. First game ever, and that felt like crap. But you know what? What am I going to do? Cry a river? I mean, you got to bounce back, and I didn't. And I wanted to say one more thing about that story. The starting tight end, Joe Donnelly, is from Rochester. He was a big-time tight end for Syracuse at that time. He came up to me after that game, and he goes, if you ever miss another extra point on national TV again, I'm going to take your head and really stick it in the toilet. You won't be able to breathe ever again. And he said this so strong to me and it resonated. I still remember, I still tell the story. It's like you get respect. Kickers, they say kickers don't speak unless spoken to, but you gotta make your kicks, man. And especially on the next level, right? Because even though Nico is being heavily recruited right now, obviously his preferred walk-on go to Nebraska, he's got to bring now his A game, not only to Old Tappan this year, because they're going to pay attention on how he's doing for his senior season. They could easily take that away. They're like, oh, we're good. Obviously, God forbid any type of injury, but in general, though, right? You always got to understand, keep yourself healthy. And that's another thing I want to say, Coach, real quick. I prevent the ways I prevent injuries from happening with kids is developing that warm-up stretching routine that they have to do an hour and a half before the game. Some of these kickers will go an hour before the game. They don't even go at a halftime. Coach, I tell these kids, open your mouth and talk to your coach about going at a halftime. They're afraid. They're like, my coach won't let me go at halftime.
It's one of the most overlooked aspects, I think, of the game. I mean, obviously, I'm paying a little bit more attention being a special teams coach myself, right? And all that, always been an important part. But some of these things that these guys don't do, or, really it's man, what are you doing? You have to now really embrace this if you want to do it at a high level.
Oh, yeah.
Go out after time, right? Make sure you have a routine pregame. Coach, I need a little bit of this. How many guys, it's still astonishing me how many guys don't even have a kicking net on the side.
A lot. I work for the
net return.
Net Return's a great net company. And yeah, just those are expensive nets, though, Coach. You need to save some budget money to get those. Those are $900 kicking nets, man. Yeah. Yeah, but they work.
Trying to win games, dude. Somebody's dad in the stands can figure out how to create a freaking kicking net. You don't need any money. Somebody's dad went to school and is an engineer.
Some PVC piping, right, Derek? Some PVC piping.
Listen, buddy. I'm sorry, this ain't Ramapo, okay? Why call us in North County?
We had a whole set of goalposts.
All right,
look, you were in North Warren? Wait, you were in North Warren?
I was Butler.
Oh, but you never coached in North Warren, have you?
No, we played them. I mean, there's nothing like going to play them in a game scrimmage and you turn around on the visitor stands and the smog is coming up from the cornfield. You want to talk about an atmosphere, dude?
Atmosphere, Sussex Tech in Sparta. Okay,
there you go.
I was watching. Who's a stud? The running back for Sussex Tech, and he's the kicker. He's just a stud. He plays lacrosse for High Point. He doesn't play lacrosse at Sussex Tech. He plays for High Point. And this kid, Brian Gruber, his name is Brian Gruber. I went to watch this kid last year. It was Kinnelon versus Sussex Tech because I had a kid at Kinnelon.
Oh, well, God bless you for that barn burner of a juggernaut.
Barn burner. There were spotted lantern flies on every person that was there, literally flying on everyone's shirt. I was scared. It was like a horror movie with the spotted lantern flies. There was too many of them, but I get scared of those things. Every time I'm coaching, I'm like, this thing's going to fall in my eyes.
I know you lived in West Milford for a little while too, so like, you're in a totally different area.
Yeah, man. My parents lived in Homedale. My parents lived in Homedale for a while.
County, bro.
Your parents lived in Homedale for a while?
Yeah, they lived right by the new townhomes, that Bell's Tower.
Yeah.
The Bell's Tower there, those new townhomes. They sold their house.
Yeah, gorgeous.
I live like 5 minutes from there.
Dave lives like on that other side right there, and then SJB
on Lincroft.
Yes. So they sold, and now they're back in Franklin Lakes. But anyways, so yeah, I mean, listen, with what I do and my coaching and my recruiting stuff, I don't promise kids scholarship. Like I can't promise a kid or a parent a full scholarship, but I tell them they got to work hard. Yeah. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Nico can get to Nebraska and win the job, and he gets a full scholarship. That's how it's done. You're going to have to beat those other kids out. The best kid plays. And I know when Coach Pasqualoni got fired, when we got our asses kicked against Georgia Tech in the bowl game, when Calvin Johnson scored like 6 touchdowns against us, Megatron, all right, all our coaches got fired. After 15 years, Coach P was there for 15, 16 years. He goes to the locker room after the game, and he goes like this: "You guys are going to remember this game for a long, long time." And that's the last words I heard of that guy. I was on a cruise ship. My dad goes, "Ricky, the whole staff got fired." I said, "Are you kidding me?" And he goes, "Yeah, they brought in Darryl Gross, from California. They brought in Major Applewhite, Greg Robinson." And I said, I'm on full scholarship. I'm going to stick there, obviously. And then I'm like, why am I here? They didn't recruit me. I had that attitude, but the attitude should have been, wait, I don't care who's coming to this school and coaching. I'm on full scholarship. I'm just going to work my ass off and still be on full scholarship. You know what I'm saying? I don't really have to play even if I'm not playing every game, but I'm 39 years old talking like that right now. I wish I could talk to myself at 20 years old and tell that same. I know. And it is what it is. I could talk about it forever. I left Syracuse on a full ride, but these are the experiences that I tell my kids. And that's why I feel like I'm I'm not just sound cocky. I just feel like I have all those positives and those, sometimes negative experiences.
You're well-rounded, which is what makes a good coach. I mean,
exactly. You've experienced real things that these guys can really relate to. Like, hey, we all made it. I mean, look, same thing for me. I was originally. Yeah, I mean, look, now I look at all this.
If you were Juan Stenner if you were
motivation, exactly.
If you were Juan Stenner out, you wouldn't be kicking. You wouldn't be coaching, right? Because what would be your motivation to coach? You Juan Stenner out, or who's the one? Justin Tucker, or
that's one guy I haven't connected with on like Twitter. I've connected with other positions, obviously some NFL athletes, some rappers that like hit me up for my videos. Are like, wow, you're rapping Eminem and shit. Like that's he's like, that's pretty impressive, man. You're trying to get in these kids' head. Like Zay the Prophet, some Jersey rapper. I can't. Everyone's like, who the hell's Zay the Prophet? I'm like, well, he's some guy. He follows me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm like, I'm gonna shout him out, But no, it's just cool. Like that's what I mean. It's the connection that you make with these kids based on the generation that we live in. The rap game, even rock music. Like I try to tag like certain people. I was tagging Taylor Swift on a video the other day. I mean, I'm sure she saw the video.
Oh, dude, you're my hero. Listen, you're gonna have to start tagging the sorority dances. I know they're coming in your feed, Rick. I know they are. I know they are the sorority dances.
Oh my God, no! But this is life, dude. It's fun. This is what 2023 is about. Even though I want to live Amish sometimes, I kind of want to live like everything just away from everything. But then again, this is what makes me drive. Like living in Jersey, like it keeps you living. It keeps you wanting to get better, and the mental toughness that we get. Whether I know you're a father, Coach Schuman, and Coach DePasquale. How many kids do you have now, Coach DePasquale?
Just the one. Just the
he
first.
He just started.
Well, you beat me on that because I just got engaged. And I just one thing at a time here.
Congratulations.
You.
One thing at a time.
Yeah. Congrats, buddy.
Hey, May, you there?
As long as listen, you're you're one of those guys that I think will continue to have your passion. So I think it'll all work out.
Like, no, I'm chilling, but So no, so this is where life is for me right now, helping these kids out. It's not so much the following, man. Listen, you know how it is, like self-confidence, of course, raises your self-esteem a little bit when people are following you and like, making your day by their messages. You know how many videos I've gotten when that TikTok rating stuff blew? I still have probably over 100 kids I haven't even ranked on TikTok. And they go, Rick, can we use it in our profile on Twitter? I'm like, of course, I'm a professional coach. You can use anything I say. However, rankings, they're gonna look at the video and say, oh, it's just one kick, obviously. Okay, but at least it gets you noticed somehow, because that's what the kids on social media want now. These kids from Mississippi and Missouri and some of these schools in Kentucky, they're not getting looks, these kids. So social media is the easiest way for them to get out there, and that's why I love doing what I'm doing, because I'm helping these kids, and I don't charge kids for that, man. And people think I charge kids for like the rankings. Only time I ever charge a kid if they're coming to my session and we're getting that 2 full hour session, or it's like virtual. But if a kid sends me a video, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's $100 just to watch your film. It's like, I love doing what I do. Even if a kid sends me a few clips, I mean, that's a connection. That's how you start working with kids, by just not being their friend, but talking to them and getting to know them first, versus like, oh, this is what the money, it's all about. But no, dude, if I had to do it for free, I would. I love doing what I do, but at the end of the day, I have my degree in teaching, and parents, I tell parents that right away, and they're like, wow, okay, I trust you with my kid, because you have you have that knowledge of phys ed, health, and driver's ed. Like, how to connect with my kid because of that, and I help them out with school too, tutoring. I do tutoring, whatever, man.
That's it. Don't ever undervalue what you do. You know what I mean? You never. This is from one business person to the next. You have an expertise that other people don't have. Don't ever undervalue that. Don't ever think that you don't deserve to get what you get, because you think doing people a favor. Listen, you working with them is making a difference that they could not get anywhere else. So don't ever undervalue that, because that's important.
That's great advice.
And in our industry, Nick Saban doesn't undervalue himself, right? So, and his kicking coach, who may or may not even know as much as you, is getting paid a lot more than you are, right? So
that's right.
So don't ever undervalue what you do. You know what I mean? So I
want to tell you Coach Saban's story real quick.
Great. I want to hear it.
I was the only kicker ever in the state of New Jersey to get recruited by LSU, right? Greg Montgomery, great friend of mine, passed away, a few years ago. And I had met with him with Matt Stover. Matt Stover was a former kicker for the Ravens, for several years. So we had met one year down in Maryland, and he saw me kick before he sent any type of recommendation to LSU. And Coach Saban, when he was at LSU, he said, I want to see you in person. So what happened was, he saw me in person. He's like, Rick, you got great technique. This is what Greg Montgomery and Matt Stover said. He goes, we can make that call to LSU, but we're just letting you know, we can get you down there. But to get a full scholarship there, or at least get on that team, you would have to beat out another kid from New Orleans who's like a top baseball player. Like, the kid's an athlete, Chris Jackson. And they won the national championship in 2003 in LSU, right? That was the year I was going to go there. I went to Syracuse, obviously. They just won the basketball national championship. So either way, it was both schools are awesome, So I get down to LSU with my father, right? We go to Tulane first. I was recruited by Tulane. We had to visit in New Orleans, Nolans, whatever they call it. And then we took the little car service. We drove down to Baton Rouge, and we got on campus, and these 3 cheerleaders from LSU escorted my father and I around the campus, which was awesome. And finally they go, hey, Ricky, and they had the Southern Belle accents, they're like, hey, Ricky, we just want to introduce you to Coach Nick Saban. This is Nick Saban here. I went right past him. I didn't even know who he was. Like, literally, he was so short, like shorter, it's like 5'6", 5'5". I went past the guy, and I'm like, that can't be Coach Saban. And Coach Saban said, he goes, excuse me, Jersey guy. He goes, come over here. I want to see. He goes, I want to see you kick. I heard a lot about you. I'm like, Coach, oh my God, like, you're the guy. I'm so sorry. I didn't know who you. He goes, no, don't worry about it. Just kick the damn ball today. So I actually did very well. It's just, I mentioned that other kid, and I knew
you don't have to know who I am as long as you make this.
And I kicked very well that day, but at the end of the day, they brought the kid. I had to be that much better than that kid from New Orleans to get. And we were about even. And what are they going to do? Send the New Jersey kid down to LSU? No, the money, it's like arena football, just like the kids, the hometown kids. If those kids are pretty good, I'm not that much better than them, whatever. They're going to get the baseball. I mean, the kid plays LSU baseball. I mean, why not? Are you going to take that kid? So it is what it is. But those are all life experience. I had Coach Rick at Georgia. I brought Pat with me down there. We messed up on the yard line stuff. He goes, we want the next Janikowski, Coach Rick said, because he worked with Janikowski at Florida State. And I was like, Janikowski? He goes, what was your kicking coach doing, Pat? He goes, why was he lining up for 60-yard field goals? I was only asking for 50. And they were going short. And that's why, again, he was kind of like, he didn't say anything. He wanted to see my distance on my kicks. And my 60s were going like, a yard short. And he goes, we're looking for the next Janikowski. It's Georgia's Georgia, man. He'll say Coach Rick is a great guy. He said it right to me. He goes, we're looking for 75-yard kickoffs. And I just wasn't getting them at that camp. I went to 7 camps in like literally a month, back to back. Like Nico Adamanelli, he went to a lot of camps, but he preserved his leg. He knows how to ice and preserve his leg after, not to overdo it. Because, these coaches, even at these kicking camps, they overkick their kids, man. It's a lot of kicking.
I'm sure.
So that's another thing I tell parents, it's like they work with me, they do their thing on their own, but let's be very specific and picky what schools that these kids are going to. Why choose 10 colleges if the kid's not going to go to this school, even though it's Florida State, it's Florida State, it's Miami. I get it, but do you realistically see your kid at that school, academically, athletically? And that's why I ended up at Wayne Patterson. That was the best chance for me to get my 2 years of fame. Because remember, and what happens with the NCAA eligibility, it keeps going, man. It doesn't stop. And I only had that. I wish I had a few more years. That'd be awesome, but no, not anymore. I'm focused on coaching.
I think you're gonna have to coach now. I think you're a few years past it.
39 is 39's not old, Coach.
No.
But definitely got to stay positive.
Wow, yeah. So you were in your 20s when that's okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, listen, it's been great. Can you just before we have you go, tell where people can find you, the best way to get a hold of you if they want to work with you.
Yeah, well, the easiest way, right? So people are like copying down email addresses and stuff. You go to Google, you type in Ricky Krautman on Google, and all of a sudden you're going to see a list of like contact information, everything. My website, KrautmanKicking.com, Instagram, TikTok. All you got to do is put in Krautman. It's pretty much right there. But no, I'm just I could tell you every at this, at that, but just you go to Google, type in my name, and literally you can find all my information. Coach Ricky Krautman Kicking, learn from the best, but also the most important thing is learn about life at the same time. And I truly believe that I'm a mentor and a role model to these kids and also the families. Like you mentioned, like how do you sit down with the families and talk about recruiting? Well, I do, and I love what I do and I'm passionate. So I appreciate you guys for allowing me to come on here and explain to me, because I'm a different breed, a different type of kicking coach, man. I'm not your normal, day-to-day coach, this and that. No, it's getting to know the kids on the next level and bringing that A game and energy every time you step on that field, man. Make a difference.
Absolutely. It's been this has been a fantastic hour. It flew. It absolutely flew. I just looked up. We were at 102.
We got to do it again, Coach. We got to do it again for sure.
Absolutely. No, it was a ton of fun. And we look forward to seeing you real soon. And listen, keep doing what you're doing. What you're doing is great. It's unique. Like it comes into my feed. I must like it in my algorithm or whatever. So it's great, and I get to see what you're doing, and it's awesome. And it's helping the kids, and that's the most important thing. So
we got to all keep it going as coaches, man. Got to keep making a difference in these guys' lives. Let's do it together as a team, and I hope to run some camps with you in the near future as well. So let's
absolutely. We definitely should connect on that. Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Hey, thanks for the day, man.
Appreciate you, buddy.
See you later.
Bless you.
Bye.
Thanks, bud. I guess.
Bye. Woo! That was great.
Telling you, that's it. People say I bring the juice, bro.
He brought the juice, dude. He brought the juice, and that's what we want. The energy was awesome. I now know everything to do. First of all, I didn't realize all these people passed away. I didn't know. I mean, obviously, I know some of them, but like I didn't know all of them. What's that? Oh,
rest in peace. It was like, oh, rest in peace, this guy, rest in peace, that guy. Like, oh, okay.
I was like,
I didn't realize so many. We lost so many that like, it just shows us where we're going, right? It's like, but
yeah,
listen,
I know.
Like I said, he's a.
I started Googling each guy as you say it. I'm like, oh wow, that guy passed away. Oh wow.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, right. But like I said, very a unique perspective in terms of like how he approaches it, how he approaches his guys on an individual basis. Also, just a whole different world for anybody who's watching who kind of is in that specialist. He talks about like that. Even the best guy he trains isn't getting a full ride. You know what I mean? So if that's looking at it from that perspective, and like I said, it just different viewpoint for a lot of guys that listen to what we do.
Absolutely, and look, he talked about it's funny because he hit on the things that I talk about all the time with respect to Twitter and how important social media is in recruiting. It's like,
right.
And I talk to all these parents all the time about it, obviously with what we do with the D1 promo, and so many like I feel bad that I'm convincing them. I'm like, no, listen, like no one knows what you're like you don't have a following. Like people you have to be able to reach out, have to be able and leverage someone's
like that's
following.
great. So, you can post little Jimmy's video on Twitter, and that's great that your 45 family members are going to be able to see it.
Right, but when Ricky posted on Kicking, like that's a big deal.
Now
right?
it's
so he's validating, right? And that's what we talk about with what we do with the D1 program, me and Mike Farrell. So it kind of was like it was interesting, and he was saying how he didn't really understand that at first, and then now he does. But it's a big thing. So anyway, that was a great podcast. We'll let it run. It's been a long thing. We'll end it right there. I think we'll be back on Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday with another one that should be good. So I'm looking forward to that.